let's start for the benefit of our viewers. If you could give us a brief summary or rundown or explanation of the Muslim Brotherhood.
Absolutely, and it's a great place to start. So, the Muslim Brotherhood, simply put, is a transnational Islamist organization that has its roots in the Middle East, particularly Egypt, which is my area of focus. And the Brotherhood started by this teacher, Hassan al-Banna, in 1928, who was reacting to a couple of things. One, he was living in a time where the Ottoman Empire had just fell, so he was dealing with this existential crisis of Islam, which had been such a big part of culture and politics, is no longer here. And two, the British imperialist presence in Egypt. And he really saw this as an opportunity for him to lead the effort to bring back Islam into society. And he did it by beginning this group that saw itself as the arbiter of culture and politics in Islamic societies. And that's where our story begins. The organization has really changed in the last century that it's existed. What we're seeing now is offshoots, branches, and franchises of the Muslim Brotherhood. Some are violent actors, some of which have been designated by the United States government. A prime example of this is Hamas. And some are relatively peaceful, participate in parliamentary elections in the countries that host them, and so on and so forth. And that's really the 30,000-foot view of the Muslim Brotherhood.
So when it was started, it was perceived, or the concept was more than just a way to politically play a role, right? So I mean, it sounds like, because you referenced cultural. So how broad was that focus?
Yeah, I mean, it's as broad as you can imagine. What really made the Brotherhood so seductive at the beginning is the fact that it filled so many gaps in Egyptian culture where the state was lacking. I grew up in Egypt, so I can speak to this a little bit anecdotally. Obviously, not in the early 1920s, 30s, and 20s, but more recently, looking at how the Brotherhood operates in Egypt, or operated before it became banned, they provided things like tutoring lessons and hospital visits and early childhood education. These are places where Egypt and other Arab states tend to lack resource, or lack the will to provide for its citizens. And the Muslim Brotherhood is savvy enough of an organization that they understand that to win the hearts and minds of a population like that, and to eventually win elections, you have to provide people, citizens, with the basic needs that they see, that they need on a day in and day out basis. And we see this strategy playing out across the Middle East. There's a reason that Hamas won in Gaza the last elections that were held. There's a reason that the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt after the Arab Spring won the first democratically is a loose term here, but the first time Egypt held a democratic election, the Muslim Brotherhood won. And I think there's something to learn from that, right? Why is an Islamist, violent, jihadi organization continuing to win elections across the Middle East?
Well, I think, yeah, as you were describing sort of that concept of the Brotherhood at the early stages, looking to provide support and assistance to the people, all I could think about was Hamas and the way that they used that as a controlling element in Gaza. Now, is it the case that Hamas was established as the Muslim Brotherhood representative of the Palestinian people? Is that a way to say that, or no?
Right on the money. The Muslim Brotherhood chapters manifest in a couple of different ways, and Hamas is what we describe as a Muslim Brotherhood chapter. In the last 2 decades, particularly, what we've seen the Brotherhood lean into and excel is that they're able to kind of create offshoots and branches that meet different goals. So we have things like Hasm, which is a offshoot, a militant, militarized offshoot of the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood. But you also have things like the Muslim Brotherhood presence in Morocco, which is actually quite liberal and quite open to things like normalization with Israel. And they're really using this tactic, the fact that they're so malleable and liquid, if you'll allow me to use that word, to infiltrate different countries, different governments, and different systems all over the Middle East. But so let me answer your question more succinctly here. Yes, Hamas is a Muslim Brotherhood chapter in Gaza.
Okay, so I mean, it's fascinating. because so you've got this organization that started, and you've got as you said, chapters, various groups, representative organizations, with what appear to be varying philosophies. Some violent, some, as you pointed out in Morocco, more liberal. At the end of the day, is that because they're adapting to that particular environment that they're in, but they still have the same, long view or ideology? Or are they legitimately fundamentally different, but just grouped under this massive Muslim Brotherhood umbrella? I'm not sure if that question makes sense or not.
No, it does. I think it's the point that the EO that we saw, the executive order from last night from the White House, we saw, it's the point that it's really trying to address. So we saw the EO mention three specific branches: the Egyptian branch, the Jordanian branch, and the Lebanese branch. And what you're hitting on here is really something fascinating within the Brotherhood, and those who study it can kind of sit there and trace the lineage. This is a two-part answer. So you're asking if the group is ideological. The short answer is yes. Everything that we know about how the Brotherhood operates, how its branches and offshoots and franchises operate, makes us believe, leads us to the belief that it is an ideological organization. Look at their motto: Allah is our destination, Quran is our constitution. These are things that they say. And now that makes us have to reckon with the fact that certain chapters are more violent, certain chapters are more liberal. So what is it? Is it the fact that some of them say that they're Muslim Brotherhood, but they're not as ideological as the rest? Or are they playing a wait and see game, as we've seen play out across the Middle East? And I think, if you're asking me my opinion as an analyst here, I think I would have to fall in the latter camp. And the fact that the Muslim Brotherhood is smart enough and has gone through many cycles of repression and resurgence to understand that they can wait this out. So when we look at a more liberal, more democratic, more, it would be a little bit of a misstep to say they're pro-Western, but they're Western tolerant, let's say. In my eyes, this is a waiting game. They're dealing with a monarchy, obviously in Morocco, and they're seeing that to engage in this political system, they have to play the game a little bit. And if that means being modern and liberal for a couple of years until they come into power, then that's what they'll do. And that's exactly what we saw play out in Egypt in the Arab Spring.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and leave a comment, a really positive, nice, and kind comment. That would be appreciated. And if you're not already subscribed to our channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our daily updates.